Maybe a prize. Will you promise any other season?
You know what? There's a little basket. Yeah.
This is a Shlomo Nigun that he only sang when he composed one time. One of my favorite gifts that he ever left, especially because of the words that it comes with. We just had this list of sharing it with the world this week on the new album. The only way we could do this is together. So everyone in the back, please just sing. All right. I'll do my best, okay? I always feel that every nigun, every teaching does what these words we just said right now. Lemikdashech tuv lekodesh kuchin. Lemikdashech tuv, to your migdash, come back, return to lekodesh kuchin. You know, they asked the Rav Shitzer after the Chayz of Lublin died. They said, Rebbe Naftali, how could it be that you guys didn't bring Mashiach? Because like Reb Shlomo always said, that there was no greater concentration of holiness in one place like there was in the time in Lublin, by the Chayz of Lublin. So if there was such a concentration of holiness in one place, how could it be that you weren't able to bring Mashiach? And he said, I hate to admit it, but you only really, really want something when you mamish feel like you don't have it. And when the Chayza was around, it felt like the Beis HaMikdash was there. But there's something about every nigun that as much as it fills you, it absolutely breaks your heart into a million pieces. And I was thinking about it before Shabbos, that everyone knows that to be heartbroken is a very, very high mila. It's a very high level to become heartbroken. But do you know what you have to have in order to be heartbroken? you can only break something that's full, right? So you have to have a complete heart in order to have a broken heart. And I feel like these nigunim, this person, this neshama that came down in 1925 and checked out in 1994 was like this master of filling your heart. He said, it's full? Okay, I'm gonna dagger you now. So I feel like this roller coaster with every nigun, every story, every Torah, such a roller coaster called Olam Hazeh, and a little bit of Olam Haba too. Shinin v'dach Hashem b'rosh leim kareta shofraya v'zamedun la shinin v'dach Hashem b'rosh leim kareta shofraya. La 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 So I want to give a big akarat tov, big thank you, the biggest thank you in the world to all of our best friends, to Reb Shlomo and Judy for so much. Not just today, but every day. Every day is like a Shlomo Yartzheit memorial. For some people, it's not like, okay, well, so was it a Shlomo? Like, what did you do this Shabbos? This Shabbos, I've been keeping Shabbos. I have Shabbos keeping me because there was someone that told me it's not about keeping Shabbos. It's about how much does Shabbos keep you. It's all over the world. I have to share with you a crazy story. I thought about this I was just at the Kever right now. And there was some, like always, I always try to go right around the morning, like 10 a.m. It's kind of like in the night, it's packed, and later it'll be packed. And I'm a Kohen anyway, so I can't even, go close. So it's always a good time to kind of hang out there for me. And I saw there some guy, like always, some guy sitting with the flute, playing away. One of the mothers from the Moshav with one of her daughters standing there crying, davening, and their eyes out. And then a hipster chassid shows up, pulls out his gartel, and goes into his own zone. Two chassidim walked up, but the coolest was these two like young yeshiva bachers who it looked like they were high school, that they ditched school, come up smoking cigarettes, and they ditch school to go to the kever of Reb Shlomo on his Yartzheit. So I want to share with you something that happened a few years back. I might have shared with some of you, but it was an incredible. Before we sing one more nigun, and then I hate to say and then learn, because I don't know what this was now. It's not learning. This is about This is about like 6-7 years ago. No more, like 7-8 years ago. I was traveling to London with my friend Laser. Some of you know our friend Eliezer Lloyd. We had some concerts in England, and it was right before Hanukkah, I remember, and it was dark, like mamish dark, England, mamish dark, 3 p.m., like Choshech Mitzrayim, and you can't see anything. And I wasn't used to the weather. I'm an LA boy. I'm not used to this kind of weather. It was winter, England, and I got really, really sick. And that usually doesn't happen to me. I'm usually a good boy, and I know how to take care of myself, especially on the road. But this time, I was gone. Fever, Laser saved me the whole Shabbos. Motzei Shabbos is the concert. What am I going to do? It was for this Bnei Akiva crowd. But, wherever you go, and it's like a Bnei Akiva crowd or a more like, Tzioni crowd, modern crowd, you always have like 4 Pelach, Shtreimelach in the back. Always, every concert, they hear something has to do with Karabach. They're always there in the back, right? And after the show, and I was really not doing good. I said, "Come, we got to go home." It was really high night. I said to Laser, "We got to get home fast." So he said, "Okay, we're running to the van that was picked us up, and then these 4 Hasidim stop us, 2 Vizhnitzers, 2 Satmars." It's like, oh boy. Okay, they're like in like a very, very Yiddish English. Get into the car. Get into the car? What are you doing? Get in the car right now. So what are you talking about? They said, go into the car, we're waiting. Mamish. I don't know what you're talking about. I said, listen, we have to be in Manchester tomorrow. This is crazy. We were in London, a place called Mill Hill. Yeah, we have to, this is nuts. Like, you're supposed to be in the car. I was like, it wasn't a shaila. They knew this was happening. It wasn't like I was going to say something that would change, They knew it was happening. So everything was fine. It's an amazing story, right? So I go into the car with them. I'm saying to him, no one's talking. It's silence. They're mumbling in Yiddish in the front. I turn to Lazy, keeps on saying, Brody, don't worry. Eliezer, bro, it's all it's all fine. Don't worry, it's all going to work out. And we're driving 40 minutes. It's 1 a.m. I'm like, this is okay. Hashem, kivisi Hashem lishuascha. I just, whatever. It should be for the best. I don't know what's going on. They said, okay, out. They opened the door, out. Go out. Nothing. Pitch black, freezing, snow. Very shady scene. And they start saying down the steps, start walking down the steps. We're walking down these steps. 1:30 in the morning with like these vishnitzers. I didn't even know what they were. We're going down the steps. Some guy pulls out like a huge keychain. He cracks open this lock, a few locks, opens the door. And it's the most beautiful Karlin stolen base medrash. Lights are on, candles on table, 3 long tables filled with mazonos and mashke that they had prepared for us to come and teach them Shlomo Torah and Nu Shlomo Nigunim. And there's a big Zaidi chair in the middle of the sit. Yeah. And out of every 2 seconds, another chassid with Lav Malka, with the Becker Streimels, every 2 minutes, another chassid came out of another hole in the wall. The place was packed with chassidim, and they wanted new nigun after new nigun, Torah after Torah, and in between the Torah nigunim, each one of them came up to me to start explaining to me based on Rambams and Rishonim why Reb Shlomo had to do what he had to do in the world. I couldn't believe it. But I'm saying all this because I just want to sing one more nigun. We sang last night in B'nai Umah, because I saw someone live a nigun. It never happened before in my life, but I saw someone take a nigun and it moved every limb of his body. The tzaddikim talk about this, that you see by the tzaddikim, sometimes by the Rebbe, by the tanzas with the Rebbes, that if you ever notice really closely by the big tzaddikim, they're spelling out Yud Kei Vav Kei with their steps, with their feet, that they're dancing to in a nigun. You also know, by the way, this is a classic thing by 3-part nigunim. It's like there's A, then there's B, then there's C, and then you always go back to the B, to the second part. Chaim David told me this years ago. It's because Yud Kei Vav Kei. It's a deep inyan. So this guy, this chassid, I'll never forget what he looked like to the mamish. I'll never forget it. He said, no, another one. And I was like, wow, I was running out. It was like 8 years ago. We must have sang hundreds of that. And I was like, okay, I got to get a good one. This guy's really. So this is another, no words. This is from Sfir Somer, 1975. This is a beautiful nigun. Did I die, oh, da la la la, oh, I die, oh, I die, oh, I just imagine him, every elbow, every movement. He was dancing with every nigun. The nigun that Reb Shlomo sang once while it was coming down, never sang it again. It made this person, his limbs come to life. David, you would love this guy. Every limb, every kolatz, every fingernail, every hair was in it. You could learn the mamish. You probably sent him the best vibe in the world. Da la 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 la. Moment lasts forever. It's pretty crazy that someone that actually, sometimes people don't do so much in life, but they leave a lot for later on. I've never heard of anyone that was so busy like him in his life, Reb Shlomo, and times a million busier since he died. This is nuts. There's enough Nuni Gunim to be teaching for the next 50 years, and it won't get old. And when it comes to the Torah, needless to say, Emunah, I just want to say what Ora said before, and I said it last night. Emunah opened the gates for all of us when it comes to the transcriptions. Me personally, I was a little kid and came to her once, and the way she shared this Torah, the Maim Chaim, so like mamish, no Yeshus, nothing to do about her. It has all about Hashem. So being around Emunah continues to be such an amazing inspiration. The amount of Torah that we have for the next till Mashiach comes. Mashiach's going to come, and then we say Torah Chadasha Meiti Teitzei. There's going to be a new Torah. So I have a whole debate. I don't know if we're going to say no, wait. We still have to finish this, or I don't want to say it, but or Hashem's going to say no. This is what you were waiting for, yeah. This is what you're waiting for. So I wanted to briefly discuss today something that's very different than what I'm personally used to, what many of us are used to. One time I was sitting with a big Breslover Rav, and he said to me, tell me something, how did Reb Shlomo get that whole inyan of who he was? And I'm like, what? The whole thing. Like, what are you talking about? So, how come on, honestly, how can someone love the way he loved? Like, how? Where's that from? Like, okay, how did he learn the way he learned? I can't explain that either. How did he write the Nigunim he wrote? You can't explain any of these things. But the question, that shouldn't bother us, like, I want to write as many Nigunim like that, or those shouldn't be the question that bother us. But the one question that should be in a kishka gut question you ask on the 20th Yartzheit is, how did a human being like this love the way that he loved? Where does it come from? Where is that from? And I think that when you really go into that question, then all the Torahs and all the Nigunim find a deeper place in your heart. And they have much more meaning in your life after that. So, usually, if anyone tries to answer that question, how did he love the way he loved? Everyone knows you always go to his Abba. You always go to his father, Reb Naftali. And no one, there's like, out of all the Shlomo stories and books, there's like 0.05% about his mother. My father remembers, he told me, he sometimes would accompany Reb Shlomo. He'd pick him up in the shul and go play somewhere in the shul in New York. And his mother was looking through the window, the second floor, always dressed in black. You remember her, right? Was she ever not wear black? Right? Even to his own wedding, right? She was a grand lady. But someone came up with a whole chiddush last week explaining why she was like this. I want to share with you something that I came across last week that I think that it'll explain a lot to help us with the question, how does a person love and give the way that he gave and in essence keeps on giving us right now? Because, I'm from the younger generation, whatever that means, and we all know this young Chevra, we all know, just like the older Chevra that were with him, if it wasn't for him, there's no way we would have given up on God 5 million times a second. We would have given up on the Torah every day. And most of all, we definitely would have given up on the dreams that Hashem had for us when he created us, if it wasn't for him. What are the origins? Where does it come from? So now in the Tanya, the Baal Tanya explains in his majestic way, what the Vlad, how do you say Vlad? In the embryo, the fetus is composed of. Like literally, what goes into the fetus in the formation, and how a person carries that the rest of his life with him. So, the nigun, Mizmor, it's Nusach, they sing it to Nishmas too. Nishmas kolcha, Tevorech es Shemcha, Hashem Elokeinu, V'ruach kol basar, Tfoer Yisrael, Zichrecha Malkeinu Tamid, Min ha'olam v'ad ha'olam, Ata Mibaladecha ein lanu melech goyim u'mayishnia. So that beautiful piece was originally composed at Reb Shlomo's mother's funeral. He was standing there and he was saying, Mizmor leDavid, Hashem roi lo echsar. Be nice, the whole thing. And I stood this morning, I took a second away from Reb Shlomo. We always try to go first to say a kapitel Tehillim by Reb Shlomo's parents. And I went, but on the Yartzheit always we start by Reb Shlomo and then go to his parents. I don't know why it's like that. It's how we've been doing it for years. So I went to the mother for a second. It's 3 rows ahead, right there on the side. And I had the kavana of what we're going to be looking at. It's a very fast one-pager. But I really believe it sheds a lot of light on this question of where is that giving from? Where is that love from? Dafka, to learn about Reb Shlomo's mother today, his mama, which, yeah, in honor of my mother, in honor of the mother of my daughters, in honor of all the mothers in the room, I feel it very strongly. Chai, Sarah, it's a whole, it's where it's at. All right, Chevra in the back. It's going to get to you in the back. I'm just going to start it because we don't have a lot of time. I know everyone wants to go to the Kevin. So, Baruch Hashem, obviously there's not enough, so share if you can. Reb Shlomo says like this. Before my mother died, she was very, very sick. She would have 6 hours of oxygen every day, and she was out of it for hours. And then again, she'd wake up and have to be on oxygen. She didn't have koyach anymore. This is 1980. But you know what my mother was all about? My mother was so much into helping people. Listen to this unbelievable story. 2 days before she left the world, someone called her up. She had a phone near her bed in the hospital. Rebbitzin, I need a loan for $2,000. By the way, she was known, even dating back to Austria. There's a whole story how she saved the Panovich Yeshiva from going under. It's a lot of stories like that. But she was, whatever, you could say whatever you wanted to say about it. When it came to chesed, she knew there was no boundaries, there were no limits. Rebbitzin, I need a loan for $2,000. Would you believe? My mother was on the phone for 4 hours. She called up every person she knew, and she got this person a loan of $2,000. Okay, but now listen, now let's learn the Torah behind this chesed, okay? Now we're learning, okay? Now it's really learning the story. Imagine how many people are not in the hospital, and you ask them for a favor, and they say, I don't have it. My mother didn't have any money, but she was mamish always making sure that whoever needs something gets it. So by her levaya, I said a Torah like this. This is right after he composed that nigun we just sang. Mizmor LeDavid, right? So in Mizmor LeDavid, it says, Yartzheit yidefuni kol yemei chayai, which means only goodness and love should persecute me, yidefuni, as long as I live. V'shavti b'veis Hashem, I should dwell in the house of God, le'oirech yamim, forever. So everybody's asking, goodness, tov v'chesed, doesn't have to persecute me. I wish it would come my way, but why persecute me? Why is David HaMelech saying it should persecute me? It has millions of meanings.
Why persecute? Like having your death.
This is how he learned it out. This is Reb Shlomo's words.
Yeah, I see.
I didn't make any of this.
Okay, you're asking.
No, he's asking. I read his question at it.
I see, yeah.
Today. I don't say a word of my own on his Yartzheit. I wouldn't dare to say a word of my own. Every single word we're saying now is in mamish his words right now. Love you. If I go to Baron Rothschild, listen what he says here. This is so amazing. If I go to Baron Rothschild and ask him, could I have $2 million? So it might be far out, like meaning it's a pretty wild thing, but he can handle such a request. He's Rothschild. You're not coming to someone that can't handle such a request. But if I ask someone who doesn't have it, that's crazy. It's just persecution. Yeah. I mean, for someone to call my mother in the hospital and ask her for a loan of $2,000, straight up persecution, right? What do you want? What do you want of me? Okay, now look. But the answer, V'shavti b'veis Hashem, this is a sign that this is a really heavenly person. People who have so much heaven in them, you can ask them anything in the world. You know what I was thinking today by the kever? I said, for our generation, we just have a kever to go to. But for all the people that had him in life, they asked him for $2,000, $2 million all the time. They asked him for things that he never really had. The stories that are coming out about what he did in order to get someone what they needed. What he did to give someone something that they needed when he himself really was on 0 hours of sleep for a few months. So where does it come from? When you ask someone you ask something from someone that they just don't have it. How can you ask them and how can you give it to them? Reb Shlomo says, when I'm being persecuted by things that, how could I give it to you? This is a sign of someone who sits and dwells in the house of God forever. This is a sign that you're dealing with a real heavenly person. I remember when I was a little boy and we came to America the night before our first Pesach, we didn't have matzah. By the way, the story is that there were all these people that Reb Naftali and Rebbetzin Pesia helped back in Vienna, and probably still when they were in Germany. Many people who made it out before the war, even before they did, before that fateful night on the boat, when the Karbach family managed to escape on one of the last boats leaving. And this people from their Kehila had already made it to America. And Reb Shlomo says he was so heartbroken. He was a teenage boy, 13, 14 years old, when he saw that his parents came to America, had nothing. And all the people that they were helped by the Karbach family back in Europe suddenly forgot where all the chesed came from and didn't help them. They were already established in America. Broke his heart, a million pieces, he said. So here he says, I remember when I was a little boy and we came to America the night before our first Pesach, we didn't even have matzah. We didn't have a penny. Why didn't we have a penny? A lot of people did eventually come, new people, and brought my father money, but my father gave it all away. I wonder where he got that trait from. Baruch Hashem, I remember the night before Pesach, I couldn't believe it. I was a little boy. My father called up a rabbi and started telling him, there's a Yidla here who has 9 children and he has nothing to eat. We have got to get him some money for Pesach. The next morning, we had some money. You don't think the Ribono Shel Olam knows exactly who he gives what to? The Ribono Shel Olam knows exactly who he trusts with whatever you have. If the Ribono Shel Olam trusted you with whatever you have. But when it comes to a heavenly neshama, Hashem trusts you even with that which you don't have yet, which is the highest thing in the world. Right? He trusts you with you don't even have it, and Hashem trusts you with it. What does that even mean? So on Shabbos we were saying that usually the further you get from a person in their lifetime, so the more legends and exaggerations and myths suddenly start popping out. It's always like that, you know. The further you are from the person in their life, so the more miracle stories start popping up. And that's true about most people. That's why it's a very big danger. You know, we're very big on hespedim, eulogies, we should never know. But when you have to give someone a hesped, keep it short and to the point, and really maybe don't even say anything at all. Because we have a tendency to start blowing things out of proportion once a person dies. When a person's alive, nothing. Garnished. He could save your life 20 times a day, but there's no way in the world you'll start blowing him up and making him great. You know, Reb Shlomo was once invited, Channel 13 did a whole big thing about Chassidus, about Chassidim today. This was in the early mid-80s, I think. And they invited Chassidim from Bobov, from Satmar, from Lubavitch, and from some of Zalman's Chevra. And Reb Shlomo was invited. And they get there. Reb Shlomo said the show started at 8 o'clock. So they get there at 7 o'clock, which is a big, can't believe, that's the biggest chiddush of the story, what I said right now. That the show started at 8 and he said he got there at 7. That's a huge chiddush. And he said that the producer of the show came to him right before they're about to go up and start, preparing the set. And he says, listen, I'm so sorry, I don't know how to tell you this, but there's this tucha, this couple, this Hasidic couple, they won't sit with you on the same panel. They can't sit around this. They were supposed to be a tish. They said they won't sit with you at the table. So he said, okay, wants me to be on the same table, but we'll be on the same panel, be on the same TV show. So I won't sit at their table. I'll sit on the side. Bizayon. So then when he saw who the couple was, he looked at the chassid. He's a guy who was a heroin addict in the streets of San Francisco. Reb Shlomo saved this guy's life. He pulled him off the streets. He was a heroin addict. And Reb Shlomo said, when it comes to those heavy stuff, you don't just pull him out and say, you got to stop. You got to be on top of them every day, morning to night, till they're out of it, right? So he said he wasn't in San Francisco all the time, but he made sure, when he saw this guy, he remembered, I made sure that all my chevra in the house of love and prayer were taking care of him day and night. I'm sure you remember him. He didn't say his name, so it's not important, but so he says, Shlomo comes up to the wife and says, it's amazing. If someone would have given you $1 million for me to sit at the table right now, you would have probably said, okay. But just because it's just brother, humble me, you won't have me sit at the table with your husband who I saved his life? And she said, it was not my idea. In his lifetime, I bet you, by the way, that couple probably runs the biggest Shlomo Farbrengen since he died. or maybe not. But there are plenty of those who do that. That's okay. You know why? Because we're dealing with a neshama that's called me'al ha'machloket. You know what I mean? There's certain neshamas that they're still attached to, like, their own neshama is still trying to figure out, like, machlokets and stuff. Then you have neshamot that are me'al ha'machloket. That we could, in Olam Hazeh, we could keep on going back and forth in terms of what's Kedusha, what's not Kedusha. When you let His Torah penetrate your being, that question becomes absolutely irrelevant. It's almost as important as how fast did you tie your shoes this morning? That question. It's absolutely irrelevant. When you're so obsessed with trying to understand how does a person love like this, then everything else dwindles away. And if that's our focus, I was sitting with Ruti. I had the zchut of sitting with one of my rebbes this last week, and we were talking about this 20th Yartzheit we're going through something very, very powerful. You know, we're really it's like this whole day, and I'm sure many of you feel it because it's 20, and it's like 20 is a crazy number because even those of us that are young suddenly feel old. What do you mean 20? 20 is like 20 is a huge chunk, you know? And I think with Reb Zalman taking off this year, it's like, this is it. Now it's like, now the era is really, really, now it's not, you know, now it's really something else. And the question is, what is it? What is the something else about? Where's your bchira chofshit? Where's your free will to choose? What are you choosing the next 20 years to be about? Remember that famous interview that Reb Miki Rosen Olav Shalom did with Reb Shlomo the last summer in Yakar, and that answer that he gave, which we say all the time, when he was asked to talk about himself. So after he would say 20 jokes, the humble man in him would, you know, try to get out of it, and Mickey would not let him get out of that question no matter what. He finally said, you know what? I can't stand shallow ideas. He said, I can't stand shallow people. I love them, I forgive them, but I can't stand them, he said. So when we're going into this Yartzheit is this cycle, it's this, I mamish feel, such a washing machine. You know, such a washing machine. This is like taking us like, and it's a chance on a day like today, the day 20 years ago, when the Malachim and the Tzaddikim, when the Frierdiker Rebbe and the Rebbe and the Mojitzer Rebbe and the Ishbitzer and his father and Moshe Leged Shabbos stood there greeting him back to Shemayim. And the energy of that simcha that took place in Shemayim when they greeted back his neshama is the power and energy which keeps on coming up to the surface on the Yartzeit itself. So it's a day of begging the Ribono Shel Olam to remove any ounce of shallowness and pettiness from our concepts of God, from our concepts of Yiddishkeit, from our concepts of Torah, and from our concepts mainly of the relationships between each other. You know, it's crazy. Most things that bug us, if chas v'shalom we were stricken with the horrible, horrible tragedy, all those things would stop bothering us. Reb Nosson Breslover says, the tachlis of a person in this world is to get to that place where he removes all the things that are bothering him, which would be removed by a tragedy, to remove it without a tragedy taking place in your life. And this, if there was ever a day to tune into that energy, I believe with chol ramach and barai, v'shesagidai, with every fiber of my being, that it's this day, when this neshama was greeted back to Shemayim 20 years ago. Mm. It's okay. It's okay. It's probably him. It's probably him calling, saying, "Brother, don't take life too seriously," or something. Anyway, we should learn that our laughing this year shouldn't be shallow laughing. Mamish shallow laughing. Rav Kook calls it tzchok haksil, the laughter of the fool. You meet some people, you ask them, "How are you?" Hi! It's laughter. You ask them, "What'd you do? What'd you have for breakfast?" The whole laughing geschäft. Like the laughing, alavai, Bezrat Hashem, even the laughing shouldn't be shallow. I have a really strong feeling. We're in a home of such kedusha, surrounded by people that were drinking from the fountain of depth for so many years. Just sitting always when I'm in the room with Reuven and Yehudit and Zusha and David and Ora and Judy's here and Ilana, who were drinking from that fountain. And my glasses aren't on, so forgive me if I didn't call your name. But so many people that were drinking from that fountain as a Kli Rishon, and now we're Kli Sheni. But you know what? That Kli is still burning fire. It's mamish. It didn't cool off at all. At all. The Kli is still burning. Hashem should, in His Chemla Rabbah and His great compassion, teach us how, I believe the only way to keep on having that Kli being poured and keeping the Mayim Rotchim is, if in Halacha, there's a concept called Tata Gvar, which means that when it comes to kashrus, if something on the bottom is boiling and on top the dish isn't boiling, then the halachic status of what's on top of it always goes according to whatever is going on the bottom. Tata Gvar. So I always think about that when it comes to these Yartzheit in these days, is that Tata Gvar, those who hold themselves mamish low, Tata, they're the ones that are mamish burning with the most fire in the world. And alavai, the secret of real shiflus and achna, of real modesty and making yourself into absolutely nothing in order to even become something, like our Heilige Rebbe made himself. Anu yameinu ketzei loveh, our days are like a passing shadow. That zchut of that anava, of that humble smile, that humble man who could have been the greatest Rosh Yeshiva, the greatest chief rabbi that ever lived. And instead, he chose to make sure that our grandchildren will actually care what the Ribbon Shalom is all about.
Shlomo to Shlomo.
All right.
So keep moving.
On behalf of the camera, we want to really thank Shlomo Katz for putting out all these holy books. All the music should bring down so many more infinite numbers in your own home too. And reach so many people, bring everybody close. Towards this festival.
We're sharing it.
And for anyone that just came for this last class, all donations to Simchat Torah are more than welcome. They're accepted and loved. You can speak yourself a lot.
Remember at the and code buses leave Central Bus Station every half hour. I'm not sure what number it is, 58, 65, 52. Okay. On the side of Central Bus Station, 54, going down the hill a little bit. Every half hour. And it's going to be a little silly. Yes. And Cole brought 60 cents off, and I believe Shlomo Katz brought
How are you, Mike?
And we have a lot of people in the back here, so if everybody in this area could kind of move out so that you can exit, and then you can come back in.
You have to get changed. Maybe I'll have it in a second.
Stack up the stools and chairs
Oh,
so
wait a
there will be
second.
more space.
What did you think? I still need another 20 shekel.
Does anybody have change of 100?
And there's a sign-up sheet here too. I think our plan was to get something to eat. Yeah, so we'll find some place in the neighborhood where we get some food, right? Huh? Yeah, we got that's the place on the way here. You know Ruth? Yeah, okay.
Abba, I got a movie. You were jumping so hard. Got a really good movie.
Bring on LeBron. You should have seen him at his hustle.
You know how often I tell that story about Friday afternoon, right?
I don't know how often. I would tell it in your honor, you know.
Remember that story?
Of course I remember.
Remember the addendum that you later you found that exit that I got off on like late one night on Friday night. Yeah, you told me we were in Union Square a few years later by Yosef. And you told me that you stopped on a pit stop, made a pit stop on the road, somewhere in one of those exits, and they saw you with a beard and a kippah, and they said to you, there's a guy that came in here with a beard and a kippah on Friday night, a few years or months ago, and he was bleeding, and he had plenty in his pocket. It was all in his honor.
Yeah, you know, I actually don't remember that part of the story.
You know what? But if I was,
Judy, thank you.
I'm still a Pisher, you know, the real Pisher. If I had any understanding of Torah, there's no way to know about that. I was wearing a black shirt. It was a highway.
Yeah. Oh, you mean to save a life, you should have stayed in the vehicle. Well, we thought it was a little extreme, but you know, I didn't want to stand in the way of your driving.
No, it was the dumbest. Oh, Hashem, I learned my lesson.
You went cross country. How was it? 20 miles?
It was 18 miles. Yeah. I walked for I don't know how many miles, and I said, you know what?
He got me Shafri and Musaf the next day. And Musaf.
They had me one of them CDs. I want one of them CDs.
You know, when the Shmali and Abigail were there,
Yeah.
they were also kind of a little bit past Shkia. Abigail maybe. And they would walk 4 paces and put their suitcases down. Then they would walk
That's
4
the way to
paces
do it.
and put the suitcases down.
I'm telling you, if I knew, not that I know anything else, but if I knew any Torah,
Well, if I knew more, I would have said, Shlomo, you don't have to do that. It's very simple.
and FFB, you know, so like, you know, it's like some stupid bugs or
I
something.
don't care. You know how much good you do because you're such a wonderful example of someone who's serious and nefesh. know how many blessings you got from doing that. Being consistent or spending around
40 and this is 60. 10?
Another, I took one, and now I took two.
1.
That's 80, right?
Great.
Kaya, yeah, thank you so much for your team.
now that you're Italian, right?
Please send them my best. I haven't seen it in a while.
Actually, I want to take a picture for them.
Cool.
I showed up, that's okay.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed it. Yeah, sorry, I need another one. That's my teacher right there.
Wait, Amelia, what did you want? Safer?
I'm buying you out.
This one is just Rip Shlomo, but there's another one coming out in a few months. Just one. Okay.
You're doing much more. You're not making use of my talents.
I'm not making use of my talents. I'm being serious.
No,
I haven't even given anything.
okay, but you put up much. I feel like I'm not.
You and I need to spend one night together. We have to just pour it all out. Oh man, really? I didn't know you guys would have walked over from. Now he lives close. Where were you staying? That's a little bit far, but you could have brought it. Next time you're ever there, you gotta let me know. It's gonna be your question. Okay?
But before that,
If I do, where are you gonna be tomorrow? Let's be in touch. You mean your card tonight?
yes.
I'm gonna send it over to you.
I bought your books yesterday. And I left him sitting on the table. It's me giving back. Yeah. I probably left already, but whoever was packing up.
This one is 60. Today.
So you're bringing it tonight, I'll give it tonight.
Yeah, I can bring it tonight. Bring it tonight.
And then you can show the stories.
We're diving for yourself.
No, I didn't ask you.
You don't have to tell me what it is. You don't have to do anything.
She's also
Before we go into the take the kids out of radio, when I young people. It was 1-0 game.
I love being here for your content, for your teaching, for everything. Yeah.